You're not falling behind. You're definitely not. Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Aibel. I am 51 years old and I am creating videos on YouTube about life in my 50s, sharing some tricks and tips on how to live our best life yet, and also telling some stories about experiences that I've already had and things that I've been able to reflect on now that I am in my 50s and how I feel about them now versus then. Before we get started today, please hit that subscribe button. I would love to grow this community and I would love to learn a little bit more about you on the other side, listening to this video right now. So please hit that subscribe button and leave me a comment at the end of this video. Let's get started with this concept of falling behind. First off, I want to kick off by saying it's simply false. There is no such thing because our journey and our timeline in our journey is completely unique to our lives. And whatever you're doing today, whatever experiences you're having, the good, the bad, and the ugly, whatever they are teaching you and preparing you for your future. So there is no such thing as falling behind necessarily, in my opinion. But I do recall thinking or feeling that in certain stages and phases of my life. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. And as I mentioned before, reflect on how I felt then versus how I feel now that I am 51 years old. So one of the times that I specifically recall feeling that sense of falling behind by comparison to, say, people in my family or friend group is when I had my daughter at the age of 26. My husband and I were only 26 years old, and most of our friends were either not married or certainly didn't have children yet. So perhaps what we felt then is, well, everyone is still traveling, developing their career, moving at the speed of light, making more money than we are. They have so much freedom. They're enjoying their marriage in a different way because we've already started our family. So obviously you make the sacrifices that come along with that. And I realized now looking back, oh my goodness, not only were we not falling behind, but all of those things that our friends were able to do perhaps a little bit longer than we were because we started our family younger, guess what? We were able to do later on in life. When our children were a little bit older, we got to travel on our own. We got to spend more time on our own. We got more date nights. And guess who wasn't? They weren't, because their children were much younger. But it goes to show you how much nonsense, right? It didn't really matter that we didn't get to do it at a specific time and perhaps other people did. And the progress that they were making in their careers and perhaps the financial advantage that they had to continue to grow faster than, say, us, because I stayed home for a while with the kids, guess what? We picked up some steam later on in later years and we're just fine. So that is just an example of how in my life, timeline was everything. Mine was a little bit different than most of the people that we knew that were our same age, and yet everything worked out exactly as it had to, and we didn't miss out on anything. It was just a different timeline. So the concept of falling behind is simply a false one because you're doing exactly what you need to do today for your specific future tomorrow. So don't worry one bit. Now, another point that I want to make is that in those years when I did decide to stay home with the kids, I felt that they were quote unquote unproductive, perhaps for career purposes. For my children, they were wonderful, and I've certainly seen the benefits later on in life, but I recall specifically feeling, again, by comparison to my peers, that they were a little bit unproductive, that my days just felt the same every single day, sort of like a little hamster in a hamster wheel. Every single day I was doing the same thing, and I felt very blessed, by the way. I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. And I did go back to work several times, so I did both. I was a stay-home mom for a while, and I was also a working mom for a while. But I recall in the years that I was home with the kids that I felt like, well, what am I gonna do next? Like, what career am I going to develop if I'm not doing anything now and I'm falling behind from everyone else around me? And it just felt like other people perhaps had a little bit more of an interesting life than I did. And my years in those days just felt a little unproductive. Well, I am here to fast forward and tell you that was not the case at all. I was managing my home and my children's lives and juggling schedules for everyone and just managing lives and a home give you skills that you cannot imagine how much will help you in a future career if that is what's in store for you or what you want to do later on. And it helped me tremendously. They were actually quite productive years. Personally and professionally, I was developing skills that I didn't even know I was, but I later learned I was, in fact, developing those skills. And I was taking time to just do a lot of personal growth that, again, back in those days, it wasn't as clear to me as it is now, that those years were fundamental in my life for personal growth, to spend time with my children and help them develop. And also skill-wise, I was developing skills that were extremely helpful in my profession and in the workforce. And I will talk about that in a later video, how I went from being a stay-home mom for years to working for a Fortune 500 company and making six figures. So it is all about timeline and stages of life. Another thing that came to mind as I was reflecting on this is the pressure that we put on ourselves, because essentially when we feel we're falling behind is, as I mentioned before, because we're comparing ourselves to other people and to those around us, and for some reason that is making us feel like everyone else has it figured out but us. Again, completely false. We're doing what we feel we must be doing at that time, in that moment in time in our lives. And that is going to be essential for whatever comes next. So that pressure is not only unnecessary, but it's also counterproductive. And I thought about something, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I did this for sure, because I remember doing this. As I was raising my kids, and say they were going from elementary school to middle school to high school, I remember in every stage, right, in every crossroads, to tell them things like, you need to make sure you don't fall behind, and you want to get into a good school, you're going to be competing with kids that are getting this on their SATs or that have this GPA, and I'm like, wow. In the same breath, I was probably telling my children never to compare themselves to anyone else. But the advice that I was giving them and the perspective that I was giving them was to compare themselves to other people, and not just compare themselves, but actually compete with them. So I'm not saying I was excessive in that kind of philosophy, but I know I said those words. I mean, I would be lying if I said otherwise now. I know I said things like, you should score this on your SAT, and this is the average you should have, and these are the kids you're gonna be competing with, or you should have this GPA. I know I said those things, and I'm like, that is so strange, because I know that as parents, most of us at some point or another tell our children the advice that we all give ourselves and others: don't compare yourself to other people. But yet we're telling them at the same time, you must compete with those people and you must compare yourself to them. So I don't know. It just food for thought here. Like, tell me what you think, because this is something that, as I was reflecting on the things that have to do with this particular topic and what I was going to be saying in this video, I thought of that. I was like, oh, that was kind of a mixed message I was giving my kids when I was raising them. But anyway, they all did well. They survived me. Another thing that I was thinking about is the fact that, in addition to the pressure that is completely unnecessary, we also will reach the things that we want to reach at the time that we are prepared for them, at the time that we are ready for them. And I'll give you another personal example. The job that I have today is a job that I applied to 3 times. And I remember now, looking back and being able to look back, that those first 2 times that I applied to the job, and I even did multiple interviews, like I thought I was gonna get it each and every time, and I didn't. And I look back now and I'm like, I wasn't ready for that job. My life wasn't ready for that job. I was just getting prepared, getting ready for it. Maybe those interviews were helping me get the job in the one interview that I finally landed the job, but I know my life was not ready for them. So even though in those moments I might have felt some degree of disappointment, now that I get to look back and reflect on that timing, I realize I wasn't ready. So I was going through that process for an entirely different reason, as I mentioned before, because whatever you're doing now and whatever you're learning now is definitely preparing you for your future. So I must have gone through that process to learn something, to be ready for that one interview where I was gonna land it. But in those moments, I felt disappointed. I felt like, oh my gosh, I thought I had it. I thought I was gonna get it, and I didn't. And now I realized my life was simply not ready for it. And the moment when I did get this job, I was ready. I was ready mentally. My life was ready for it. My time was available for it, and I've been extremely successful. So it's about timing. It's about timing. It's about timeline. It's about the perfect moment for you. So I hope that you have the confidence to understand that and to be comfortable in your space right now. Take it in, enjoy it, and remember, it is preparing you for your future. And the same way that you are uniquely you and no one else can be you, no one else can live your journey or your timeline. So I hope that this message resonates with some of you out there, especially younger moms. I think that I'm really targeting that audience because a lot of the experiences that I'm sharing here have a lot to do with when I was younger, raising my kids, and decided at different times to either go back to work or be a stay-at-home mom, and how that felt, and you know, the advantages it has, but also some of the disadvantages that we feel in that moment that perhaps it has as well. So I would love to hear from you. Please make a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about the concept of competition, comparisons, and falling behind. Remember, it's not true. Remember to subscribe. I'll see you here in my next video. Have a great day. God bless.